Welcome to Smokin Bulls, the podcast about business, money, and lifestyle. We're here today with Richard Hansen from Sky Eye Measurement. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Dave.
Let's get into it. What's one of your most memorable adventures? What got you on the travel bug, or what's some of the coolest spots you've been to?
Yeah, so traveling started for me. It's probably a late bloomer for the travel. I didn't do my first real backpack trip till I think I was 24 or 25. We did Australia, and that was an eye opener. It was, we researched. Back then, you'd book through a travel agent. It was in 1997, and you book your flights, and we would buy the Lonely Planet travel book, and you'd go through the little book, and they would tell you where to stay, where to eat, what to do, basically what to see. It was awesome. So it was myself and actually my current business partner, Al Karen, that planned and did that trip. It was one of those off the cuff. He was working, just finished a job. It was minus like 36 out. He came to my place and said, "Man, I got about 2 or 3 weeks off. Can you get some vacation?" I said, "Well, let me see what I can do. I think I might be able to pull this off because I haven't taken any vacation this year." So literally, this was done a couple days before Christmas in 1996, and we booked a trip. Got our visas for Australia, and we basically went for, I think it was just over 3 weeks, and purchased backpacks. Well, I had one from when I was hiking and stuff, but backpacks and all the gear, and flew into Australia, and we landed, and we get out, we have hiking pants, we got hiking boots, we got all the stuff, right? We're backpackers. And we get off the airport, and we get through customs, and it's like 32 degrees and 100% humidity, right? And we're just cooking. We're like, holy shit, this is crazy. So we go to the bathroom at the airport. We change into shorts. We come out, and the backpacking was my idea. We're a little older, right? And Chum's like, "So what are we supposed to do now? Like, do we hoof it?" And I'd done some, playing around hitchhiking back in the day and stuff, right? I said, "Well, we could try to see if we can get a ride, or let me see what the schedule is for the bus." And there's a bus station, right? And he's like, "I'm not staying out here for a bus." So, of course, the backpacking was a cab to the hostel and hanging out with, a bunch of folks. And it was the start of an adventure. And from there, we went on to Fiji. And it was just
not on the same trip.
Same trip, yeah.
Same trip to Fiji.
On the way home, we stopped in
yeah.
Fiji, and that's actually, so that's where we did a lot of, we dove the Great Barrier Reef. We were certified scuba divers at that time, but we did our advanced diving in the Great Barrier Reef, and then we did a rescue dive in Fiji. And so it was kind of on our way home. We landed in Fiji, and it was really cool because we were diving, again, everything, we were on a tight budget back then. Everything was planned out with our budget, what our expenses were. We just didn't know exactly where we're going to stay and what we're going to do. But we dove with a local company, and I don't remember the name of it, but the dive master, as we're doing our rescue diving, a yacht sinks. A yacht comes in at low tide at night, hits the reef in Fiji, and it was a chartered yacht, and it actually sinks. So our dive master wasn't night, it was just low tide. It was because he actually helped rescue them. And he had seen that the yacht, it took a while to sink. They don't sink right away, right? But as it was taking on water, they're calling Mayday, and he helped get them, and they called the rescue folks, and he helped get them to shore. So the coolest thing was, the next day, we went and dove the yacht.
I was going to say, yeah.
Like, seriously, we were down and in all the cabins and in the lounging room and the galley, and it was just... we're taking encyclopedia, like they had the books. It was a really fancy yacht, right? Yeah. We're pulling them off and we're reading them, but we put them back. We're respectful, right?
You recover the purses for everybody and stuff?
Well, of course, they had all their personal belongings, and then he was grabbing stuff for the folks that had sunk, like things that they could recover. But for the most part, it was pretty much done. But I have pictures of that to this day. The part of the mast is sitting out of the water, and it was probably down about 35 feet
Cool.
on the reef. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a tide come up, and then as the tide come down, you'd see the yacht, right? And the tide come up, you just see the mast.
Yeah.
So that was a freshly sunk a yacht that we did in Fiji.
First divers.
Neat.
Yeah.
First dive, and then from there got the bug, and the next trip was Thailand and Singapore. Backpacked around Thailand.
This is before you were married?
Yes,
Oh, so that-
just before. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was unbelievable. Did a lot of diving there. Beach, the beaches were amazing, and the people were just fantastic. Right?
Never been there. I want to go there.
Yeah, we went to Koh Sam. We started in Bangkok. We didn't have time to go north, but we took the train down to Surat Thani, and then from there we took a ferry out to Koh Samui. From Koh Samui, we spent a week there. We actually kind of got stranded in Koh Samui. It started to rain, and it was a massive storm, and it rained for like a week straight.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was fun. It was a fun experience. In Thailand, you know, when it rains, there's not much to do but drink, right? And you would go to the local restaurants. What they would do is they'd play old movies, and they'd play like The Great Outdoors. They'd play old American movies.
Yeah.
And then that's how they'd get patrons, right? People would come in to watch the movies. So
That's so cool.
yeah, it was pretty good. And because of course we're staying in bungalows in Thailand. When we went to Koh Phi Phi, so after Koh Samui, we went around across to Krabi, and again took the bus, and then into from Krabi we took a ferry to Phi Phi Island, and that was like heaven on earth. It was the most amazing place I've ever been. Beautiful beaches, untouched. I know it's really developed now, and it got devastated, I think, in the 2000 in the tsunami.
Tsunami. Yeah. The
2000.
Indonesian tsunami.
What was it? 2004.
Can't remember what
The
year that was.
date. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
So, but we were there in Thailand was 2001, I think. But yeah, amazing place, a ton of fun, and then the next trip after Thailand was Jen and I. We went to Egypt, Israel, and Jordan, and that was a crazy adventure. So it's my wife now, and she had never really been on a travel backpack trip, and I'm telling her, oh, you know, you don't have to book anything, you have to do this.
I just wander
We
around.
flew into Cairo at 4 a.m. with nothing booked.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody spoke English in the airport, and it was complete chaos when you land, right? Just people everywhere. And again, I enjoy that. I like the uncertainty. I like that kind of adventure. And Jen adapted well. She was great with it. Yeah, I got in a cab and got to a hotel, and it was about 5 a.m, and this first light and first prayer was happening, and yeah, it was really cool. It was just so exotic just to see such a different culture, and so again vibrant in its own way. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to sleep that morning, and I couldn't wait to get up and see what this has to offer to explore, right? And then of course we went and walked all over and went to the National Museum in Cairo, and it was awesome. It was a really good experience. Went and seen the pyramids, and from there we went down to we took a second-class train down to Aswan, and that's on the Nile. And then the Nile, it's one of the most pristine, beautiful places. It's just sand, and then you have your oasis, and it's just gorgeous all along the Nile because it supports all the life, right? So it's green and palm trees, and yeah, we had a really good time in Egypt. And then from there we went and across into we actually took a felucca. Well, this is a good story. We took a felucca from Aswan up to Luxor. So I think we spent 4 days, and a felucca is an ancient Egyptian sailboat.
Yep.
Okay, I was going to
So we
say
sailed.
I might be the only one in the room that doesn't know what a felucca is, but I'm going to have to ask.
Yeah. We sailed down the Nile. It was amazing. It was, but we had our stuff. We had our sleeping bags. We had everything we really needed. But we slept out. It was cold on the desert, so slept out under the stars for 4 days on a felucca.
Oh yeah.
So you slept on it. You didn't dock on the.
No.
We always stayed on the town.
We actually, it wasn't safe to stay in the villages just because the guide of our boat, we stayed, but we always stayed on the boat. but we only ever docked at the village that he was from.
Okay.
He wasn't comfortable docking at the other villages back in
Crazy
the day
to
there.
think that.
Yeah. So we sailed down and 4 nights on the boat, and they fed us, and it was so crazy cheap. It was like a couple $100 to do 4 nights on a fluke up the Nile. And
probably not that anymore. And it's a lot harder to do that trip now, I think. I mean, the way the world's changed, like it's.
I don't know.
Who's going to see the pyramids anymore right now? Like until things.
It would be a different trip. Yeah, it's a different world out there now. And again, it was easy to travel then, and people were friendly. And from there, we went across to Aqaba, and then we went and seen the lost city of Petra, Jordan, and then from there across into Israel, and then back down into Egypt. So.
Do you think it's possible for somebody who was your age then and maybe a bit younger today? What are they going to do to be able to do that trip? Do you think they can still replicate what you've done?
Obviously depending on the political stability of whatever country you're going to go to, but talking specifically Egypt, it depends on your level of adventure. So when we went, there was warnings at the time. There was. That was just the start of, when did we go? We went, it was just early 2000s. We went 99 or 2000.
So this was pre 9/11.
Absolutely, yeah. But there was already the extremists in Egypt in certain areas, right? So that was already there was actually a murder at one of the sites the year before we got there, mass murder of the German tour bus. But
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah,
just never remember the years of these things.
So the Canadian government didn't recommend actually land travel from Cairo to Aswan, but we couldn't afford a plane ticket, so I talked to my so we were staying at a hostel, and the manager, he was hooking us up with everything. He knew everybody and was helping us out. And he was really a big help awesome. Actually. Yeah, he goes, well, you better go second class on the train, because depending on where it is, they might take pop shots at the first class. I don't know if he's just doing scares, but the ticket was less. But so
did you dress though like as local as you could?
I not really.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I just I just dressed like a typical backpacker. I had a T-shirt and jeans on and a backpack, and
I guess she'd look.
My wife
would with a backpack.
She would cover her hair, right?
Oh,
and, and we would try to fit in as much as we can, but we had no issues other than we were the only foreigners on the second class train, right? Oh, yeah. So it was you have those uncomfortable situations, but the people, they just stayed to themselves, and it was all good.
They're probably friendlier on the second class train.
Oh yeah, no, everybody's friendly. It's just if you don't speak Arabic, the communication's not there.
Your
right?
perception would be, oh my gosh, I'm in a dangerous spot.
I did a second class backpack only because the train was full. I was on my way to Greece, and I came out of Milan, Italy, and taking the night train down the coast there to Brindisi to cross over to Corfu.
Yeah.
And I remember getting on this train. It was a Friday night. So I didn't plan these times to work out that way, but I didn't realize that, everybody in Milan gets on the trains and goes down the coast. And there's Rimini, I think, is one of these towns that was far enough away from Milan for all the young kids. That's where they would go party.
Okay.
And I walked on this train. And, when you get on a train, you get on the back end of it because it's they all back into the platform. It's wherever I was the starting point, I guess. And so you get on this, and I walked the train, the whole train once, and there was not a place. Walk the train back, not a place, and I'm coming back the third time. The train's starting to pull away, and there's basically in the first class coaches right at the end where the washroom is there. They're just sitting on the floor. So a group of young guys are like, sit.
Yeah.
And I mean, their English was whatever they got from rock songs.
Sure.
So I sat with them, and they had the whole setup. It was only a 2-hour ride or whatever it was, but they knew where the train would stop because they do this on the weekends.
Yeah.
And they would just spread out amongst the train. And so they would be the first ones off the train on every stop. And the little Heineken looked like a hot dog cart, and they'd be the first ones to it. And it was like these beers were just being whipped, and there'd be another guy standing there, and he just passing it, and then they're being thrown in the door. That's and the guy where we're sitting, they're all just one stacking. and then it's like a 45-second stop. It was like a pit stop.
Yep.
Train would leave.
Yep.
I hung out with these. I almost got off at Rimini because they were just the best.
Oh, right on.
And if you go sit in the other parts of the train, you would never had an experience like that. So
Yeah.
I think going maybe second class for security reasons or whatever, but you get to be amongst, and you can't speak their language, but it's amazing.
No, it was.
You say you're an animated talker. I could only imagine with your hands how you were able to communicate with everybody about.
Well, again, it was a night train, so it was
Oh,
a
okay.
pretty long night.
Yeah.
But it's we stopped at every village, right? And same thing, people would come on to sell food and wake you up and sell their goods and then jump off. And again, they would be jumping off literally or handing the tray to somebody else because the train had already started going. Yeah, it was. I remember I stayed up most of the night because again, I'm taking it all in. Right, this is pretty cool, and it was quite the experience.
So you got a romantic, stories for us of all these cool travel experiences, but
it's not always romantic.
I was going to say, where did they go off the rails? Like, has anything gone wrong for you?
So on the trip where we took the fluke up to Luxor, there was sort of off-limit zones for where we got off of Luxor, where we had military escorts as tourists, and we needed to get to a bus station. So we had a military escort from where we got off to the bus station, and then we got on the bus, and the bus was going to the Red Sea. So we were actually heading to Sharm el Sheikh and Dahab areas on the Red Sea, and it was like a 14-hour bus ride. We got on the bus ride, and of course, there's multiple checkpoints. And this is before Jen and I are married, right? And she had my passport, and she had her passport.
And you're not married.
We went through the first checkpoint. I didn't even think of that at the time, actually, but they come on to check passports, and they got machine guns, and they're tapping it on my shoulder. Passport, passport. And that's all they could say. And I'm like, and Jen, my wife's looking for it. And I'm, almost panicking, freaking out, like, buddy. And she's just like, I know it's here somewhere. I put it right in that bag, and I'm like, keep it cool, Richard. She's working. She's as scared as you are. But yeah, I said, just a minute, we'll get it right. It's here, right? And then we got passports and stuff. But it was one of those how she responded to chaos under pressure, right? Because it was a high stress situation. They're looking for the passport. She couldn't find him. She found him right away. She had him in a slot. Right, it was just her bag was under other bags, and of course it was like, why are the military on the bus? What is this about? Right, and they're coming directly to the tourists because it wasn't a tourist bus. It was a normal bus, right? So we had no time to get ready. It was just like, boom, there's tourists.
There it is.
Yeah. But it was all good. We get them. They just wanted to make sure that we had our visas and the proper documentation. And nothing about it.
Survived.
I think when we've talked earlier, this is part of what you said. This ties to being a president of a business. You get some unknowns, and you've walked into an unknown and purposely. That was your adventure.
Yep.
And you got to deal with the pressure that comes with it and the potential, the different outcomes that could happen from it. So you have to navigate that, I think, is the key here.
Yeah. No, 100%. I tie a lot of similarities actually to my travel experience because it was prior to starting a business and to what I go through with the business, right? You start off, you have to, you make an itinerary, a travel plan. You have to book flights, figure out where you're going, what you're going to see, and how long it's going to be, and what's your outcome, right? So you basically, in a sense, you're setting your business plan. No different than a business, and you're going to have your costs associated with what it's going to take to do that. And it's no different than a business plan,
And that discretionary unknown costs.
Yeah. Well, this is the experience you get of traveling is that unknown and that perspective on adversity. How do you handle when things just are not expected and they come in front of you and it's like that came out of nowhere, and then you got to navigate around or what you have to do. And the reality is, in most scenarios, at some point when there's some kind of obstacle comes in your way, you need to rely on people, whether it's the people that work in your business or the people that are locals in the area you're traveling with. Maybe it's a tour guide, maybe it's a family, hostel manager, somebody's going to be helping you. So how you relate to the people makes all the difference. And one of the it's just a perspective I get from with my travel was understanding that not everybody has the same perception of what you do when you're working with people in business. There's a lot of different perceptions, and no different than travel. Like people have different cultures, different lifestyles. I'm coming from Canada. I'm trying to learn as I go. You try to adapt and fit in as best as you can. But what really helps you is look at it as much as you can from their lens, through their eyes, how they see things. And the similarities are in business too, with your people and your team. I can jump to assumptions all the time, but if you take a step back and you actually try to look through a problem or an issue through their lens, it's easier to come up with a proper solution or an understanding. So I've learned a lot of good lessons with travel, and that I bring forward in business, right? And again, like you said, it's that the understanding how to challenge all the unknowns, the adversity and things that get thrown at you that you're just not expecting in business. It's continuous, right? So
there's a starting point, though. I think this is the key. I think to even traveling, and for you, I didn't even travel like you did. I mean, I had places I was going to show up to and be there, and I had a place ready to sleep, and I didn't roll the dice as much as you did, but it's your character, I guess, in a way too, and that's what shows up in business. It's how do you start a resolution of an issue, and sometimes I find people don't start it at the right point. They are aggressive, or they feel something's been wrong to them. It just doesn't go the right way. So I think traveling will teach you that. I was a bartender for years. Holy smokes. I mean, if you want to learn about the social aspect of the world, bartend. I bartended, like when I first started bartending, it was in a restaurant. So you got all kinds though. But when you realize that you couldn't take the same approach to every person, and there were some people that were really, just off their rocker. Yeah. But for the most part, you just learn no matter what. Like 99% of all people are good. Yep. You got to start with the right piece for that person. And it was always hard to figure out when you first get going, what's that start. So I personally, I believe, my bartending years, maybe your travel years, were formative in knowing how to deal with people. And that's the basis of all businesses, because you have to deal with people to make your living, and you have to deal with people to have employees. And there's some people aren't built for that kind of thing. And that's what I think makes a good company sometimes, or a good president or a good business owner, is having some of those experiences that aren't what would be considered, I went to university to get that degree, and I know how to do this. And this is like kind of like life on the streets. If you get someone who's been in a gang their whole life and then they're successful in life, they've learned hard knocks. And I think this is really key to all this, is learning those things.
No, 100%. In business, it is all about dealing with people. That's that to me. Again, if you're good with your clients, good with your employees, the employees will look after the clients. The clients are taken care of. They will look after your business. What I found that works well, as much as I can, is I try to keep emotions out of business. I try not to get emotional. If there's any kind of confrontation, just check it out. Look at the facts. Don't make assumptions. And again, perspective is try to see it through their lens at times, because they'll have a different perspective. And then, from that, you can kind of potentially come to more of a win-win, mutual understanding on certain things, whether it is an employee or maybe it's a client or what have you. Like I've dealt with my share, and it is what it is. And you get different emails, and you get a phone call, and you get different things, and you just don't want to jump to a conclusion. You don't want to. It never wins. There's never a win if you're gonna just fight back at something. So depending on what the situation is, I'll usually just kill it with kindness. Yeah. If they're rude, I'll just be super nice back. And guess where that happens? 9 times out of 10,
actually turns them.
It turns them. The next day, they're like, "I'm so sorry about that. Really, just this is, I was misunderstood." And 9 times out of 10, also, it's a miscommunication. That's where it usually lies. It's not. You're not wrong. They're not wrong. It's just something's a miscommunication and some expectation that wasn't clear, right? So,
when I first became manager, when I was worked at another investment firm, and I was a manager and was hired as a manager at the same time. We were advisors first as another advisor, and our job was to train and recruit new advisors, and that's how we made part of our income. And it was what was interesting is we had different approaches, but we decided to share the recruiting process. And it was basically like, you get the first hire, you get the second, you get the third, you get the fourth. So it was random. Like that's how we did it. And we realized something, it was a really hard position to take on when you just were an advisor.
Yeah.
And you realize that people are very precarious and that there's some simple facts about how people are going to be successful or not. And what was interesting was the number one thing was the failure to get your point across is what we felt after training all these people. And so the joke in our business is you could be the greatest financial advisor in the world, but if you can't communicate that to a client, you actually have to be a bit of a salesperson. Sure. They're not going to give you any money. You could teach them everything, and you could be the greatest at it. But if you can't communicate properly with a client, you're done.
Yeah.
So that was the number one. The second was lack of support at home. If your spouse isn't on board, whoever your spouse is, or your family, and they wonder where you are all the time, and you're working, trying to make this thing work, and they're kind of starting to question. So if you haven't shared your plans with them and you're out doing all this all the time, they're going to think something's wrong, right? And then the third was money. Yeah. If you try and do something right off the hop and you don't have the backing or the support and you run out too quickly, you'll never have enough to maybe get that trajectory from it. And so I think we're deviating a bit here, but that's to me has all come from things that weren't necessarily learned in school or learned on the job. These were things that you learned just in life.
Those are all valid points. And your second point is so, like, I didn't actually talk about that. I talk about my team and successful in business, but for me to be, for myself to put everything I have into the business, I would not have been able to do that without 100% support of my wife. Because literally when we started the business, we had a house in Sylvan Lake, had 2 kids. They were 1 and 3, just little, toddlers, infants and toddlers. And, we were starting the business up in the Peace Country, Grand Prairie, Valley View, Peace River, Fox Creek, because that's where the active work was initially. And I had to peel myself away and go to work, and she took care of the family, and she worked part-time and had a great job, and then said, hey, this is going to go. I need you to move. But I had 110% support, and if I didn't have that, and I've mentioned that to Jen, I would never be where I'm at today 100% without that support. So that is so crucial.
Yeah.
You don't have a cloudy mind. Your mind is clear. You can go forward with what you need to do and execute what you have to. Yeah. And with our traveling, I just want to bring this up. Sure. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to actually go back to Australia with my entire family in 2019.
Oh, that would be cool.
Actually, sorry, 2018 is the year before the pandemic. Yeah. We went for the month of December, pulled them out of school, it was only 3 weeks. They were got certified for scuba diving down in Australia. We traveled, we went to Brisbane, we went to Hamilton Island, we went up to Cairns, back to Sunshine Coast, Surfers Paradise. So they got to live that, not necessarily backpacking, but just
the kids aren't going to learn the backpacking from you.
It's we were staying in a little bit nicer place, mind you, but it was what an experience, and I was probably in the best mindset of my life, and feeling I felt good. I was exercising every day. You wake up, the beach. Again, it doesn't matter what you do in business, but you got to make sure that you look after yourself and take a break. And that was the break I needed. My team managed the company, and I didn't actually look at emails for the first week. I shut my phone off I disconnected. And that was the first time.
You were the coffee hauler, if I remember.
15 years, yeah. You
were up so early.
Yeah,
were you riding or running? I can't remember if you had a bike or something.
No, I would just walk.
retrieve coffee for everybody who was rising a little bit later than you.
I would go get Starbucks.
That's
Surfers
right.
Paradise.
We talked about that. Yeah, that's so cool.
I'd already ate some oatmeal, had my workout in, went to get coffee, and then when they woke, we'd cook a nice big breakfast as a family, and I'd open up it was a beachfront condo overlooking Surfers Paradise, and it was just
awesome.
Yeah, pretty fortunate. Yeah, blessed to just open it up and just breathe in the air, and it was a good time.
So you got to backpack before you can go to something like that, in my opinion. If you've at least walked the earth or done some of the things you did, and you get to go to this, so you got to understand where it all starts from.
I've stayed at $8 a night with rats and cockroaches, and hey man, I just go to sleep. It doesn't bother me.
Hope the rats eat the cockroaches.
That's okay.
As long as they don't start gnawing on my toe or something.
I've been in some situations, so
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Richard's sticky situations.
Yeah, no doubt. But, I appreciate all of them, whether it's, in an $8 a night hotel in Dahab with basically just a room and half a mattress on the floor, and you have your own sleeping bag, or to it wasn't a fancy, it was just a condo, but it was overlooking the ocean, so it was very nice. And both, it's not about where you're at or what you're doing, it's about who you're with and how you're doing it
in the moment you're in.
Yeah.
So what's coming up now? Do you have any plans? I know COVID-19 has shut travel down, but is there something on your bucket list as a family, something you guys want to do?
I'd actually really like to take the family and do a little trip through Europe.
Oh, yeah.
We have family in Denmark, and Jen and I did a little traveling, Amsterdam, Germany, Denmark. But I'd like to kind of go a little further south and kind of hit Spain and maybe France, Spain, Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of
maybe
even get into Croatia. We'll see. We'll see how it all go, but I'd love to just rent a vehicle and just cruise around Europe.
Well, great. That'll be on the next podcast when we get you in here.
Yeah, maybe that.
I feel like traveling provinces. That's about the size of the country.
Honestly, I'd love to get to Eastern Canada. I've been to Montreal, but I have not been to Quebec City. I can't wait to go there. And Nova Scotia. We're actually doing a job there right now, so once things open up in Canada, that's the other thing, is to take the family and do as much traveling in Canada as we can too.
I'm half Nova Scotian, half Newfoundland.
Okay, there you go. Right on. Yeah.
Found that out later in life, but I got the violin, my knee would start to go, and I'm like, why is Ashley McIsaac making my knee go? I figured out.
I can't wait to go out to Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. That would be fantastic.
I'm looking forward to that too. From from the summer in Ontario, like that's a good hopping point to at least get to those without like a full day and a half of travel. So I look forward to doing the same. So really cool.
Well, I think that about wraps it up with Richard today, chatting with us about his travel experiences. So thanks for sharing it with us, and thanks for sharing how it ties into how you develop your business now. So thanks for joining us, Richard.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Richard. You guys have been awesome hosts.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this episode of Smokin Bulls. If you want to learn more about us, find us at smokinbulls.com or follow us on social media.